I've jumped back over into Fiddler and I've got my iPhone in my hand, all ready to start making HTTP requests that are going to proxy traffic through Fiddler. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got Safari open on the iPhone and I'm going to type in troyhunt.com and go. And in fact, as I start typing this in, we can see a bunch of requests appearing here on the screen. So this is Safari loading my website and obviously all of the assets that then get embedded in that site. I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top here and we're seeing a bunch of requests. Now I'm going to assume that you have some familiarity already with Fiddler. If you don't, and it's a foreign concept, jump over into my Hack Yourself First course where I introduce it and run through the basic functions. Moving on, let's have a look at what's happening here. And remember, all of this is requested from Safari running on my iPhone. So here's the initial request, troyhunt.com. We can see in the result column that it returned a 302, which is a temporary redirect. And in fact, if we go down and have a look at the headers, what we'll see is that it's actually redirected to troyhunt.com/?m=1. I sit on top of Google's Blogger service, and Blogger has detected that I have a mobile device and it's redirected me to the mobile view URL. As a result, if we go over here and see request number 3, this is now the request for the redirected mobile path. That result is an HTTP 200. That's an OK result. So inevitably the page has loaded. If we scroll over a little bit, we'll see that the content type is text HTML. This is an HTML web page. We can see other assets on the page that might be CSS, I have a style sheet, or JavaScript. Clearly I have some script on the side. Pretty common stuff. We can also see things like images on the page. All of that is very normal and it is what we would expect from a website. Now, one of the things we can see here when we look to the right side of the screen, and again, assuming you're familiar with Fiddler, you will have seen that the top part of the right part of the screen is for the request and the bottom part is for the response. We'll see here a yellow bar. Response is encoded and may need to be decoded before inspection. The website supports gzip encoding, so this is a compressed response. We'll just click that guy to uncompress it. What we can do now is actually view this in a little web browser built into Fiddler. We can go over here to Web View. Now when we do this, we're going to see just the HTML rendered in a browser without style sheets and without images. So as we scroll down a little bit, we'll see text, but we're not actually going to see any formatting or any bitmap images or anything like that. Now I'm showing you this simply because we're often going to use these views in order to inspect the responses from mobile apps. Normally, it's going to be JSON and XML, but the important point here is that Fiddler has the feature built in to be able to show us those responses in a way that makes sense for the content type. One other little thing to add here. If you haven't used this feature before, you may see Fiddler say that it requires the syntax highlighter. If you see that message, you can just click on it and download it straight away. Do that, because not only do we need it to view these responses, but we'll also need it later in the course when we start working with Fiddler script. So this was just a web page, and all of this is pretty familiar stuff to you if you've ever used Fiddler before. Let's do something more interesting. And what I want to do is just click anywhere over here, Control A, select all the results, delete. We'll just clear those guys out. Now that those requests are gone, let's go and open a real rich client app on the device and see what we can find via Fiddler.